We'll discuss what happens in a spiritual person's life that makes all these enormous thoughts of prophecy of the end of the world and all seem very natural and real. Because every spiritual person who's ever lived, if you speak to them quietly, you listen quietly, you'll understand that the world as it seems to be for the rest of us does not exist. It's simply not here, and you'll read it in all spiritual writings. So anytime we talk about something, the end of the world, it means it's nothing. It's already ended in your awareness, in your consciousness, in your heart, in your soul. And so you're aware that everyone is fighting a great battle around you. So you're not taking sides, you're fixing this one, you're fixing the other one all the time. And preferably when you can, you live alone. You live in the mountains, the prairies, out in the deserts, and you're completely happy. And nature may seem unforgiving, but it's forgiving when you're alone, when you're away from the natural panorama. It's easy to live on your own. We spoke of the Tibetan friends I had, and some that they would actually build a little home around them. The windows are just open enough that they could put food in and water now and then. And they live like that in meditation for the rest of their life. And they are not crazy. Do you understand? You're living in a transcendent reality. You're close to the actual God. There is an actual God. This world has always been called an illusion, Maya in the Sanskrit. It's not even that. It doesn't even exist. If you're truly spiritual, like my friend Gerber or my teacher, Peter Mink, the world champion jiu-jitsu fighter who just won 2 gold medals in Los Angeles last weekend. He's here, so I have to be good. And my friend Jessica, the doctorate in AI who only wants to do astrology. So with Augie's support, that's what she'll do. And the rest of us, we just float with your spiritual. You're not really here. I don't know how clear to make that, but I'm going to try to make it clear for all of us, especially who are spiritual. This isn't. The quiet is, the purity is, the decency is, the love you have for your mom. It's everything. There's nothing else. And you're not confounded by the everyday like my hero, Pedro Mink, they call him, but Peter Mink, my friend. It's like a chess game, and he's just so easy and gentle with the most powerful athletes in the world. You see him flowing and floating because he uses it for that. Jessica uses it for helping people understand where they're at in their life, what their basic personality is and persona, so why they are attracted to this, that, and the other. And that's a different avenue of it. My buddy here, Gerber, he's the finest trainer I've ever met, and I have to be nice to him. He's doing the video today because his muscles are bigger than my chest, so I have to watch myself. So he trains world-class athletes all the time, and he's the kindest, most gentle person in the world. Now, I'm not talking about martial arts or being strong or tough. I'm talking about whenever you make like your profession is what you make money from, right? But your real reason to be here is something that you do with such ardor, such integrity, such comprehensive ability that it becomes spiritual in calling, right? It's a wonderful world when you're following your star. And there is a star. The star's name is Almighty Everlasting, Infinite God, our Father and our friend. When you discover that, it's not religious. It's kindness. God gives more than God is all the time. So you'll never actually find God when you're looking. It gets so subtle, so exquisite, so pure. It's a baby's touch. If I can say that humbly, it's so much more than that. Can I say infinitely more than that? The baby's touch is God's fingertip. And so are you. And that's what's being discussed right now. And when you're there, all the thoughts of all the animosity around you and the fighting and the power trips, it's like, it's okay with you. You absorb it all and you move forward and you move forward and you fix who you can, you enhance, you rebuild whatever's around you naturally through kindness. My Tibetan friends, when I lived with them in the mountains, and some more than 50 years ago, were being assailed, 1 million killed in a 10-year period, and horrible things happening, but they were trained in this deep meditation. If someone died, you couldn't grieve for 5 days after the death. You can't grieve because you want to allow the person to exit, stage left. You want to let them let go of the world. And here we're grieving, we're falling apart, and there's nothing wrong with grieving for someone you love, their pain, your loss, but when you've trained yourself in the serious, deadly serious art of meditation, of recollection of who you really are. When you're there, then if someone dies, like in Tibet, the family sits around 5 days, and the local lama or monk would come by and sit in prayer for you, and you're not grieving, you're allowing the person to let go of all their conditioning, especially at an older age. They could have whatever condition, and then they leave. And at the end of 5 days, the lama comes over with this little sword type thing and presses it into the third eye. It's a holy ceremony. It's not violence. It's to make sure the presence of it. And when you feel these objects, I brought many home and of course gave them away, but the presence of them is so holy. But to my friends, it was natural to be holy. And that's what we're talking about, aren't we? That's who you are, aren't you? You're not one of them, are you? You're transcendent, you're pure, you're kind, you're special. God knows. And you never, ever, ever have that thought of your own, I'm special, I'm better. No, it doesn't exist. You're always nobody and nothing, and that's how you can handle the insanity of this present world. Point again from the beginning is that if you're spiritual from the beginning of time, all spiritual people, they're not really here. And that's what no one gets, and they'll be enamored of the prophecy, the end time, and all. It's always the end time. There is no world. The state of nirvana, God consciousness, the beatific vision, the vision of God. It should take preeminence in your thought, in your heart and your soul 24 hours a day. It doesn't mind. Gerber, my friend, master teacher, Peter Mink, it's just a kindness. There's just God. And you know it's God. You don't talk about it openly like I do. It's my job to be a meditation teacher, so I'll use the word a lot. But other people, you're very humble, you're very gentle, you're very kind, and that's just the way you are. And that's how you get through the madness. And the enemy parts before your every step. That was the idea of the parting of the Red Sea. The miracle is that any of that has lasted through the ages. And when you're here in the quiet, there are no ages. You can see what happened at the Red Sea. Or your friend's soul at passing. It doesn't matter if you're here or there. I didn't go to funerals for years. I simply live with the person before and after, and there's nothing changed. This lifetime is incidental in your history, which includes greater worlds and universes that only dreamers have dreamt. But they're all in the palm of your hand when you sit quietly, when you're in awe, when you're in love, when you care, when you're kind, when you heal. When you heal someone, it's as though you heal the whole world. You're in this higher state. You're never confused by the soup around you. It's just always your turn to do the next good deed. And you do it as you never leave a trace behind. And if you've given everything away, you don't think about it twice. And you don't give things or yourself away stupidly. You always know exactly the parameters of the circumstance. You know exactly where you are, what you're doing, the demonic energies fighting you, the peace in your heart that you want to give to someone in trouble, the help a family, a friend, whatever. It's always, my sister Marlena, we're Jewish, she would call it mitzvahs. She would never tell anyone what she's doing, and she's just remarkable, carrying people up and down steps into their wheelchair in the morning. No one knows about it. She's up 5:30 doing that, and no one in the family ever knows about it. And you just help people, you know, when you can. When you can't, you don't. In other words, it's not a silliness, kindness. It's a godness, kindness. You can heal anything and everything. And the greatest factor in that is knowing in your heart that this present world isn't what it seems to be at all. So you're not worried about the social political atmosphere. I know more about that than any of my friends or neighbors or the intelligent people I meet or the intellectuals that I have buddies from Stanford or whatever, because I've read and I also have had this understanding from birth. So I'm not taken in by, excuse me, these horrible allergies, by the social political atmosphere. You don't react to it. And then you can help, and then you can heal. No one has power over you. You have power. And you rarely use it. And people will not understand you. And you will not care. Because you're built to be alone, to be off to the side somewhere. I know the only happiness I ever had was when I lived in the Redwoods, 6 years one time, 2.5 years another time, when I was in the service and spent time in the jungles and all. Pure happiness. You know, my buddy's a football coach. He came the other day, and he would come out on Thursday morning. We live in the woods. We'd take a little run and do some basic karate and teach him. And he'd always say, "Of course you're so happy, Robert. You live alone here out in the woods." And I was thinking, buddy, you know, you couldn't last 5 minutes alone. And I love him forever, and I watched his life change. I saw him the other day, over years. And you never know who or what. There are people that I thought were borderline evil, and 12 years later I see them, and my just looking at them and seeing it changes them. Saw one yesterday who was like a bad person. And with my buddy Greg, and he came by and looked at me, and I, was kind of direct with him last time, and he just loved me like he was me, and I just, isn't that wonderful? You never know who or what, you know? Everyone's fighting a great battle. Sit back in your place of worship. Your place of integrity, of kindness, of care, of healing, of spiritual genius. The moment you've done that, you've overcome the world. So all these thoughts that someone like my buddy Augie would have, or I would have when I was 18 or 16 or 19 or 20, it was like, I always had these visions, but until I met my friend Dr. Buxbays in Los Angeles, he was my good friend, and we helped build the World Zen Center in late 60s with Dr. Show when I was on leave or whatever. And got a Marine Colonel to donate a mountain, and in Virginia we built the World Zen Center just by walking into it. These things happen around you. You don't do anything to do it. I've met a lot of the famous people and supported their work here and there, and I don't ever, and I've never looked to see a star, to see whatever. It just, your life is completely transcendent. And you're not really happy as a person, but you are exquisitely thrilled as a soul, always. It's so wonderful to see him, the only God. Meditation is allowing God to look out from your eyes. It's allowing God to be kind to you. That's all God could conceivably want. There's a universe of wonder, of care, of decency. These brilliant, golden, infinitely ecstatic places, they exist for me always and every day, and I can't explain it to people around them, or right now I can't do this or that because I'm not here. And I stay in touch with that as much as I can in order to transform this. This is hell, the world that seems to be. Anything solid, anything too real, anything impressive, exciting, that's the devil. If you want excitement and happiness, let him look out from your eyes. Move with your footstep. Cry with your heart. He is our God. More than that, he is you. And as soon as you comprehend that, the wars are over. And there'll be peace everlasting. There's nothing to want or need. Once you sit back in your meditation pose, you've overcome the world. Buddhism is a philosophy, not a religion. If you sit quietly, the moment you sit quietly, you're the Buddha, the awakened one. You get it. It's that simple. It won't let go of you. So sit quietly. And all this heavenly wonder is yours. It is you. It's your identity. And that's why the world has fought so hard to keep you from being this free. So I admonish you to be this free. I beg you, for your mother. You want to free your mother? She passed, she had this, she had that. Imagine what she went through to raise you. I hard think it when I was a teenager, off to whatever in my life, what the hell she went through, because she always felt it and knew it. You understand? Do this for your mother. Show her you care. Do this for the one, the special one in your heart that you really, really, really love and wouldn't mind being there forever. Do this for her, for him. Do this for your puppy. Do it for Professor Mink's puppy, because they do it for you. There is a God. There is a heaven. There is a star in the midnight sky with your name. Please just allow it to be. And there'll be peace in the kingdom. Enjoy evermore. There are many self-enhancement techniques that all work if taken to fruition, if we do them. For concentration with my teacher, Professor Mink, like I try to explain to my buddy owns this gym, I was like, no, they all, every martial arts teacher, and they're not as good as Gerber, but they do every healing agency there is, they're proficient at it. You're working on the mat, you fix this one, that one, the only one. You know, you can do it, you've learned it. Well, I don't want to do this or that because I'll get hurt. Well, it's the same with meditation. I don't want to fight the dark forces. Well, just do it and you'll do it. You get onto a mat, there's something about your body, Professor Mink will fix it. There's no excuse not to train. Once you're in that, that's a spiritual discipline. I'm not talking about fighting or being tough or having muscles like Gerber, because that can't be except for him. The point is any discipline that allows you to sit quietly and understand who you are and overcome. It's on the mat. You overcome your own prohibitions about this or that, or fears, or secret places where you were hurt and the shame. Keep pushing yourself forward. That's the secret. That's what Bodhidharma meant 1600 years ago. He started Chan Buddhism, brought Buddhism from India to China, started the Shaolin Monastery, which Peter has the big samurai there, and the young samurais, and the older samurais, the adults. It's a spiritual philosophy. It involves absolute integrity on all levels. To protect your family, your mom first, your civilization, your friends, your neighbor, and yourself. And you overcome all these aspects. Let's see the Bruce Lee movie had this holy man sitting in the back seat, like, what's that all about? That's what it's all about. You are the holy incarnation of God. So forget everything else you ever read or heard or believed or sought to understand or know. Just drop it and know that, and then all the lights will go on. And you'll be that shining city on a hill. You'll represent civilization. You'll protect it, which is what the samurai code that Peter teaches means. Safety first for all the little ones, the mothers. When you know your own family is safe and you've done that and you're there protecting it, then you get it. You shouldn't be able to vote unless you have a family. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about that, because you don't need to vote. You need to let this be. You'll have powers beyond this world by infinity, by infinity, by infinity. They're not just words. I mean that. I live that. I am that. You are that. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Just the sweet caress of love. First to your mom, your children. You have all the power of God within you. All of it. And it's wonderful and beautiful and kind and true and real. You're here to reestablish heaven on earth. And the earth will disappear, and I mean all of it. You know, when you walk into the woods, it's kind of uninvited. You got, and like the world kind of walks away from you. That's why I love living in the redwoods and other places along the beach and whatever. But it's just all alone, because everything disappears when you're loved, right? And nature is God's way of saying, let it disappear. God's meeting the horror of this world somehow in the middle. So how the world be created, the Garden of Eden is meant that as soon as you think you're two bodies, there will always be war. As long as two people think they are their body. That's why when you fall in love, you have the body that all disappears, you come like one being, and that's God's way of meeting the devil in the middle. The devil, this is this infinitesimal, there's infinite universe and universes, and they're all spiritual. And there had to be somewhere in all that eternity, I'm not making an excuse, I'm saying that this happened, this particle of sand somewhere in the infinity of God happened. That's what this world is. It's nothing. Look at it as a particle of sand. Put a particle of sand in front of you in your meditation chair and look at it. Or push it away. Or don't look at it. It never was. It's no more than that in perception. If in your consciousness you can let go of all this, let go of all this. And if you can't, try the next time and the next time. There's nothing wrong with you. Just understanding that this particle of sand had to pop up somewhere, and that God looks out from your eyes. You're God's grace to the present generation. Take it seriously. and lightly. There are no enemies. There's nothing to fight. You are an exquisite, remarkable spiritual presence. The world around us does not exist. I'm being very direct with it. I could make little poetic inferences to say how we step through it, but that's done in the works of, we'll say, Walden Pond. We talked about Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau. William James wrote the varieties of religion, so forth and so on. There are so many great writings. Walt Whitman, Khalil Gibran, the Holy Scripture, the Sufis. They're just beautiful writings, and I spent time with the Sufis with Sheikh Hassan 20, 30 years ago. And just very, very beautiful, serious people who know God. It's real. I'm saying this with a certain sense of urgency because I understand how difficult this present world is for all of us, and all that crazy stuff is happening. But if you're quiet, if you teach like Professor Mink does every day, if your Gerber's got every tragedy in his life, and he's here all day training people, fixing people, healing people. I had something, an awful injury. I don't get injured that much. And I walked over to him, I had something important to do, and he said, well, stand against the wall, turn this way or that way, and I just did slowly what he said, and my neck and the whole thing was healed in like a split second. What the hell? And that's what I'm a healer. I fix people all day. But he's a lot better than me, and actually in good condition. So do your part. I'm not making an admonition. I'm not telling you what I'm saying. None of that should exist with you. It's just a quietude, a simplicity, a warmth. And it's very human, being you, being God. God being you. God is you. God is you. You are God. It's remarkable. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You have to prove anything. It just is. The simplicity of it all. And when you sit to be quiet and different forces are at you, then boy, you'll be very happy about it. I know one time I sat for the first 3 months, I was in the woods, I know God, I'm enlightened, whatever you want to call it. So I always figured when I'm 36, I was in my late teens, that I would sit quietly in a chair and people would feel God, and that would be the end of the world. But at a certain point I realized that, yeah, I made people happy, they feel blessed, but they'd run off and be here, or they'd do well, or they'd make money, or they'd have a house all of a sudden, or a wife and or a husband, and they'd come to me, oh, I'm happy, come over, like. And I realized very, very clearly that what I always suspected, it doesn't matter about feeling God, it matters about preventing the influence of Satan. In other words, temptation. Sin in the Bible means separation from God. It isn't something you fight hard. Sin, it's looking right through it. So then I had to realize I had to teach people about all the temptations. So I developed forms of psychotherapy that always work, made a science out of it, and so forth and so on and so on. So I helped fixing combat veterans, their stuff, and victims of more serious stuff, this, in every way. And in other words, you will find this out. You'll do this on your own. You'll find all these different means, like Jessica does with astrology, like Gerber does with fixing people. He centers people. My buddy owns this gym here, and he's just created a temple over 30 years of hard work and labor and sweat, and good and evil, infecting you in every way. He finally got it where he's made a temple out of it. And of course, my sensei, Professor Pedro Mink, he just is a center of spirituality here. When you watch the moms walking in crying the second night with the kid, you can't healthy discipline everyone and anyone. You can have 12 or 15 little tiny children rolling all around because his heart, he communicates directly from God with his heart to the children, to the moms, the dads. Somehow he's that mature in every way. He doesn't know what fear is, he just knows healing. So as tough as he looks, it's because, yeah, he's playing triple electronic chess with his opponents, because he's played soccer in front of 150,000 people in Brazil. He's done, over his home, he has like dozens and dozens of gold medals in winning championships across America, the world, Brazil, and so on and so on, and running his own businesses and so forth. So that's one way. He's my hero, and we all have someone. Rob's hero is Annette, the kindest human being I've ever met, and she fixes animals like, I can't explain how her grace and her understanding and quiet with an injured animal is just something that is so thrilling. I'm not crying over it. I'm always shocked that she has that kind of quiet inside her, because if you're going to do healing, you can't take part in, there's no injury. You're just there to help and fix. In the areas I did with the psychotherapy and all, it was called non-evaluative, like where you don't relate, you don't react to the person's problem. You sit quietly, you're aware, and they feel your peace, they feel your interest, and you never judge, you never question, you never ever thought about it, literally. And you have to train yourself, like Professor Mink on the mat. You have to bow onto the mat, bow to the teacher, and that puts you in that zone. For me, in doing non-evaluative psychotherapy, working with people, I am completely quiet inside. So if I'm healing or listening to when I'm working with people, then whatever they want to express in their pain, they're allowed to express. And you'll be shocked how quickly people will let go of that. It's quite amazing. I know that I'll heal the entire world. I've never doubted that. And guess who I am? I'm you. We have an identical heart. Once you're spiritual, it's like a big, beautiful dream. We're all the same person. You exist only in your mom's heart and soul. And that's why you're here. That's why I'm here. That's why we're all here. To do a great good. Everyone's fighting a great battle. Sit quietly. Love. Care. Be kind, be true. Live beyond fear, like my Professor Mink, my teacher, does, and you'll make everything work. Thank you, Gerber. Thank you, Augie. Thank you for listening. God bless your destiny. It's spiritual.